The snow had just begun to fall harder when the world narrowed to one trembling moment, a small voice barely louder than the wind, and a woman who had spent her life commanding boardrooms suddenly forgetting how to breathe. In the quiet panic of a winter road framed by dark woods, a lost child and a powerful stranger collided in a way neither would ever forget, and in that instant everything that mattered was about to change. Before this story pulls you deeper into that frozen road and the fate it held, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen when strangers choose to care. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. She had not planned to stop. The road cut through the forest like a scar, long and narrow, with snow pressing in from both sides as if the trees were leaning closer to listen. Her SUV idled behind her, headlights glowing against drifting flakes, a symbol of everything she had built and everything she felt she was losing. She was a female CEO whose name appeared in magazines and business journals, a woman praised for her precision and criticized for her coldness. That morning, she had left a board meeting early, the weight of another acquisition sitting heavily on her chest, when she saw the child standing alone at the edge of the road. Small, red-cheeked, and wrapped in a thin dress far too light for the cold, the girl looked like a question the universe was asking her, one she could not ignore. The child's eyes were wide, glassy with fear and confusion, scanning the road as if expecting someone to appear from the snow itself. The CEO had opened her door without thinking, boots crunching against ice, her expensive coat suddenly feeling like armor she did not deserve to wear. The little girl's hands were shaking, her breath coming in short bursts, and when she reached out instinctively, the woman felt something crack open inside her. The words the child struggled to form were simple and devastating, explaining that she could not find her father, that she had wandered too far, that the woods had swallowed him whole. No tears yet, just the stunned disbelief of a child who had not fully accepted that something terrible might be true. The woman's first instinct was to reach for her phone, to call for help, to hand the situation over to someone else the way she always did. But when she looked back at the woods, dark and silent and thick with falling snow, she felt an unfamiliar pull. The road was empty, the forest endless, and the clock she usually lived by seemed suddenly irrelevant. Somewhere deep inside her, a memory stirred of being small and afraid, of waiting for someone who never came when they were supposed to. She crouched down, steadying herself, and without ceremony or hesitation, she moved toward the trees, the little girl's presence anchoring her in a way no contract ever had. The woods were colder than the road, the snow deeper, each step demanding effort. Branches clawed at her coat, and the silence was broken only by the crunch of boots and the girl's uneven breathing. The CEO realized how unprepared she was for this world, how her strength had always been measured in numbers and negotiations, not endurance or courage in the face of real fear. Still, she pressed on, calling out into the trees, listening for any sign of movement. With every passing minute, the light faded, the snow thickened, and the urgency grew heavier, settling into her bones. As they moved deeper, the child began to slow, exhaustion pulling at her small frame. The woman lifted her without a word, feeling the surprising weight of responsibility in her arms. It was a physical weight, yes, but also something more profound, a reminder that leadership was not about distance or control but about showing up when it mattered most. Her arms burned, her breath came hard, but she did not stop. In the quiet of the forest, she began to notice details she had never allowed herself time to see before, the way snow gathered on pine needles, the way the world seemed to hold its breath in moments of crisis. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. The woman's thoughts drifted to her own life, to the sacrifices she had made in pursuit of success, to the relationships left behind, the family she rarely visited, the child she had once considered having and then postponed until the idea quietly disappeared. She wondered when she had decided that ambition required isolation, that caring too deeply was a weakness. Carrying the little girl through the woods, she felt those assumptions begin to crumble, replaced by a raw, undeniable truth about what it meant to be human. A sound broke through the snowfall, faint but unmistakable. A cough, distant and strained. The woman froze, heart pounding, listening again. There it was, followed by a weak shuffle. She moved toward it, every sense sharpened, until she saw a figure slumped against a tree, half buried in snow. The man was pale, his lips blue, his eyes fluttering open and closed as if fighting sleep. Relief hit her so hard she nearly collapsed, but there was no time to rest. She lowered the child gently, wrapped her coat around the man's shoulders, and did everything she could to keep him awake, her voice steady even as her hands shook. The walk back was slower, heavier, each step a battle against the cold and creeping fear that they might still be too late. The woman supported the man with one arm, carried the child with the other, and felt the limits of her strength pressing in. Her lungs burned, her legs screamed, but she refused to stop. The headlights of her SUV eventually appeared through the trees like a promise, and when they finally reached the road, she felt tears spill freely for the first time in years. Help arrived soon after, drawn by her frantic call, and the forest released its grip on them at last. In the aftermath, as paramedics worked and the snow continued to fall softly, the woman stood apart, watching the father and daughter reunited in a way that made her chest ache. There was gratitude in their eyes, yes, but also something else, a recognition that what had happened was more than luck. It was a choice. She had chosen to stop, to listen, to run toward the unknown instead of away from it. That choice, simple as it seemed, had altered the course of several lives, including her own. The days that followed were strange and quiet. The story did not make the news, and she did not want it to. She returned to her office, to her meetings and deadlines, but everything felt different. The glass walls of her high-rise seemed thinner, the numbers on her screen less urgent. She found herself thinking about the woods, about the weight of that small body in her arms, about the clarity she had felt in the face of real danger. When she finally visited her parents, something she had postponed for years, they noticed the change immediately, the softness in her voice, the way she listened instead of directing. Weeks later, a letter arrived at her office, handwritten and careful. It was from the child's family, filled with gratitude and simple words that carried more meaning than any award she had ever received. They spoke of recovery, of snowy afternoons spent safely indoors, of a father who now held his daughter a little closer. The woman read the letter several times, then folded it and placed it in her desk drawer, a reminder of who she was becoming. She began to make changes, small at first, then bolder. She shifted company policies to support families, invested in community programs, and made time to mentor young women who reminded her of herself before the walls went up. Her colleagues noticed, some skeptical, some inspired, but she no longer measured success solely by their approval. She had learned, in the quiet terror of a winter forest, that leadership rooted in empathy was stronger than any strategy built on fear. As the months passed, she returned to that road once, parking her car and standing at the edge of the woods. The snow had melted, revealing a forest that looked almost ordinary in the daylight. It was hard to believe that such a place could have held so much danger and transformation. She breathed deeply, feeling gratitude rise within her, and then turned back toward the road, ready to continue forward with a heart permanently changed. If this story has been unfolding quietly inside you, if it has reminded you of a moment when kindness altered your path or someone else's, take a second right now to comment below and share what kindness means to you. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Near the end of that year, as she sat alone in her office overlooking the city lights, the woman reflected on how a single decision had reshaped her understanding of power and purpose. She realized that the most important moments of her life would never be scheduled or predicted, that they would arrive unannounced, asking only that she be present and brave enough to answer. The image of a lost child in the snow stayed with her, not as a memory of fear, but as a symbol of the good that can emerge when we choose compassion over convenience. If this story touched your heart, stirred your emotions, or reminded you of the quiet strength found in helping others, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps keep stories like this alive, reaching people who need hope, warmth, and a reminder that even in the coldest moments, humanity can still shine.